So I would like to start with the intrusion complex, a concept that I developed in my thesis as a significant trope in contemporary cinema. It unpacks the dialectic between the host and the intruder within the context of capitalism as a modern form of reverse primitive accumulation and precarization. The intrusion complex tells a simple story. An outsider arrives at somewhere outside a house. Apart from the door that creates a spatial difference, there is also a fundamental material difference between the inside and the outside that is constructed through the process of primitive accumulation. This is when a portion of common population is turned into the outsider of any landed property, and without any common land to dwell on, since they all have been enclosed, the outsider is excluded from everywhere. Having no shelter nor access to means of production, the outsider is left with the choice of either dying from the ills of capitalism or being precarized as an intruder who enters a closed space not of their own. The outsider chooses the latter and hence becomes the intruder. A peculiar relation is therefore constructed. On one side of the door, there is the host, the occupant, owner, and inheritor of the closed space, along with its inherent added value. On the other side, there is the intruder, who is driven by this material difference. They trespass the border, linger in the house, eat the host's food, and at best, completely take over the house. But first, the intruder must get through the door, the border of the house. They search for a key under the carpet, a lock that can be broken with brute force, an open window, a secret underground passage, a forged entry permit, or to learn from the big bad wolf, simply coming down the chimney or dressing up as the host's grandma. After the crossing, the intruder can only lodge there shortly before being discovered and expelled by the host. Further intrusion must be performed if they wish to stay longer. This is a game of survival between the intruder and the host. The intruder may hide in the basement with occasional visit to the fridge like a house rat. They may provide labor to the host in exchange for bread and an entry pass. They may learn the language and trade of the inside to rid of their state of intrusion, so that the host will welcome them as a guest at the front door and hopefully eventually assimilates them to part of their system. And finally, the intruder may, through violence or infiltration, eradicate the host and become the new host themselves. So by looking at intrusion complex through a dialectical frame, I argue that the physical or discursive spaces that the capitalist host retains also offers a potential for the proletarian intruder to resist, disrupt, and make political change. Intrusion should be a persistent political project that opens and ruptures the unobtainable closed space, and that serves as a means to abolishing the very construction of intrusion itself, the border of the house. Under this framing, I would like to contemplate on one of the strangest figures in intrusion complex, the real estate agent, and allow me to jump right into the object of my analysis, Vive l'amour, 爱情万岁, a 1994 Taiwanese film by Tsai Mingliang. The film tells the story of three intruders who unknowingly share an uninhabited apartment in Taipei. They are Mei Lin, a real estate agent, and Kang and Jun, who are both squatters of the apartment after stealing the key from Mei Lin. The film opens with the hallway of an exquisite apartment building with the camera focused on a key attached to a door. Its keychain is dangling from being inspected by a delivery man, a visitor of the building, who, after moments of hesitation, comes back and steals the key. This key, as it turns out, is left there accidentally by Mei Lin, the agent. This provides an opportunity for Kang, the delivery man, to become an intruder. However, the opponent of the intruder is not really a host, but an intruder herself, as Mei Lin also secretly and illegitimately uses the apartment as a place for anonymous sex. Mei Lin, among other real estate agents in cinema, is indeed a paradoxical figure. She is simultaneously the host, the laborer, and the intruder of the house. As the mediator and representative for the host, she has direct access to the house, offering hospitality to potential buyers. As a household worker, her labor power is effortlessly harvested by landlords. And finally, she is also a potential intruder, as she can easily claim more rights to the space than she should. All of these roles are embedded in the realtor's key. It is authorized to them under a labor contract, yet leaving a gray area where the empty house can be altered into a lived, squatted place. If allegorically, according to Marx, the landlord is the capitalist who has quote unquote vampire thirst for the living blood of labor and for private property, then the real estate agent is a blood dealer, a mediator between the blood provider and blood sucker, between the propertyless proletariat and the propertied capitalists. Jonathan Harker, in Bram Stoker's 1897 Gothic novel Dracula, is a mediator of both. He is a realtor who helps Count Dracula relocate and expand his property to London. After discovering Dracula's vampire secret, however, Harker realizes that he is also complicit with Dracula to create a new and ever-widening circle of semi-demons to batten on the helpless. In other words, finding a place for Dracula is not what he's hired for. The real deal is the surplus value that comes with the new place. In this case, the large amount of fresh blood in London. Hence, Harker's service to Dracula is the same as the role of the kind of real estate agent who sells properties as speculation instead of living spaces. Neither a viewing nor a key is necessary because the buyers are not choosing a home, but a commodity to be sold later at a higher exchange values. The use values and materiality of the house are of no relevance. While Harker at least makes the effort to show his physical presence to his client, traveling all the way from London to Transylvania, the real estate agent in David Mamet's 1983 play Glengarry Glen Ross lose connection with even the property itself, further abstracting surplus value from the materiality of the real estate. The play is about the fierce competition among 4 real estate agents from the same agency in Chicago who resort to malicious acts in order to obtain the leads, which is a list of potential buyers and their phone numbers. The title of the play derives from the 2 farmlands that the agency represents, Glengarry Highlands and Glen Ross. However, the play is set entirely outside of these particular properties. They are perhaps undeveloped empty lands to be leased as a means of production, having no buildings, no doors, no locks, and hence no keys. As if Glengarry Glen Ross is just a tongue twister that has no meaning, that is not even worth the effort to pronounce, because ultimately, Glengarry Glen Ross is about neither Glengarry nor Glen Ross, but the context that to wealthy capitalists who can spare some money to invest in property development without living in it for the speculative surplus value that it will generate. One of the best written scenes in the play features top salesman Roma emotionally manipulating a stranger that he meets outside a Chinese restaurant into purchasing property in the fashion of intense, repetitive monologues. Pointing Glengarry Highlands on the map, Roma says to the stranger, "What is that?" "Florida." "Glengarry Highlands." "Florida. Florida bullshit. And maybe that's true, and that's what I said. But look here. What is this? This is a piece of land. Listen to what I'm going to tell you now." The first act ends here with a colon that opens up to nothing. The empty space on the rest of the page is as empty as Glengarry Highlands itself, as much material as the map is. Without the key that signifies the livability of a space, real estates are not so real after all. As the curtain falls, Roma would continue to depict details about Glengarry Highlands, which are irrelevant and unknown to the audience. We only know that it is located in Florida, on the other end of the country from Chicago, that it is bullshit, useless, unpractical, but more importantly, it is a piece of profitable land, a promise of an opportunity to become even wealthier. Be that it is London or Chicago, Florida or Florida bullshit. Where there is blood, there is a vampire. Where there is speculation, there is capitalist investment. And this, I argue, is the real of the real estate, a real without a key, without even the corporeality of the real estate agent. As both Dracula and Glengarry Glen Ross demonstrate, real estate agents cling to the capitalist mode of production. They own the resources that the proletarian homeseekers and farmers do not. But at the same time, they are also exploited by rent monopolists and live on precarity. Parker's business travel makes him a vampire's prey, whereas the salesmen in Glengarry Glen Ross are under extreme material and psychological pressure. In Vive l'Amour, Mei-Lin is also a realtor who earns a precarious livelihood, traveling around Taipei City to put up advertisement on streets and managing on-location viewings. Like the salesmen in Glengarry Glen Ross, she tirelessly makes sales calls, going through the leads while waiting for potential clients on the floor of an unfurnished property. The liminality of the realtor is embodied in this still. Behind the poorly lit, abandoned-looking space is an open glass door, from which the view of the street can be seen, creating the visuality of an unlivable space that is in between the inside and the outside, one that is not private enough as it welcomes every passerby to walk in for a viewing, nor is it public enough to accommodate squatters, which would go against the interests of the rent monopolists. Unlike the salesmen in Glengarry Glen Ross, who are only selling a business opportunity, she has to offer great hospitality to her clients for them to feel like home in an exchange empty, uncanny space. Whereas Roma from Glengarry Glen Ross uses a masculine manipulative strategy, Mei-Lin uses her ultra-polite, sweet voice to beg the clients to come for a viewing. She would speak of as many details about the house, while the house viewers only respond to her feminine hospitality with silence and ignorance. The clients are immediately entitled to the right to hospitality the moment they enter, without having to play the role of a good guest because they are not really a guest. They are the potential host who can roam unrestrictedly. Mei-Lin, on the other hand, plays the role of a host without really having the right to the space. She is an effective laborer, a servant to the host. The three cases demonstrate that, on the one hand, the realtor's key by definition belongs to the monopolist. The realtor grasps the materiality of the key without claiming its ownership. On the other hand, the immateriality, the absence of key, is essentially the speculative increase of value embedded in the particular property as commodity investment. The property will have to be leased or sold at a higher price to the proletariat who actually needs a certain space to dwell and who will possibly only be able to pay with mortgage. Etymologically, a death pledge, a lifelong commitment to offering blood and rent to the monopolist who will need to seek help from the real estate agency to buy and sell properties. And this is how the absence of key is transformed into a realtor's key, a signifier of the capitalist accumulation, a barrier against squatters and intruders. Such barrier can be broken via the theft of the realtor's key as committed by the other two intruders in Vive l'Amour. One of them is Kang. He is depressed and homeless. He is a deliveryman and a salesman of commercial ossuary, so like an urn or a vault in a temple. While Mei-Lin manages spaces for living people, Kang is a seller of spaces for the dead, a continuation of monopoly rent into the afterlife. He immediately moves into the vacant apartment after stealing the dangling key that seemed to be calling him. The film then goes on to introduce Mei-Lin and Jun in a compilation of shots without dialogue. These two strangers are following each other in a cruising manner on different busy streets in Taipei during nighttime, an action already violating the normative regulation of the public domain where sex and sexual pleasure are not to be seen. Meanwhile, Kang is sitting on the bed with his blood dripping and draining after slitting his wrist. But his suicide is interrupted by the sudden appearance of the two lonely, horny arrivals. The two of them hastily get undressed, passionately kissing next to a mattress without beddings. This is a sign of uninhabitation. A prolonged pornographic close-up is fixed on Mei-Lin licking Jun's nipples, leaving traces of lipsticks on his body. By luring Jun into the apartment in a similar manner as she lures her clients into buying property, Mei-Lin transgresses the border of the house by abusing her key outside of work at night. However, because she has the key, which does not mean that she owns it, she is under the disguise of a resident. She does not risk being caught guilty for turning her workplace into something that is neither as public as the street nor as private as a rented property. She is also a squatter of sort, stealing from the capitalist system for the sake of sexual pleasure. Upon hearing the noises of the door opening, Kang discontinues his suicide, holding his bleeding wrist, tiptoes to check the illuminated bedroom with a half-closed door, from which the sound of copulation can be heard. Half-closed because a supposedly empty apartment does not require the door as a technique to further rearrange the spaces. This is a moment that exposes such corporeality to the audience, the corporeality of homelessness, of sex, l'amour, and precarization. The scene then cuts to the next morning. Mei-Lin and Kang has left for work. Jun, enjoying the sovereignty over the house, walks into a room overlooking Taipei City with a huge red poster on the window that says "For Sale," only now reviewing what this place actually is. As Jun steals Mei-Lin's other key after their hookup, the realtor's keys are now distributed and abused by the three intruders. Kang and Jun soon become fellow squatters and friends, as they are both rendered as problematic subjects through their shared embodied homelessness. They always have to be traveling to find places to dwell, to earn money, and to avoid being caught by the police in public. In their cases, the realtor's keys is like a life buoy, something to grasp onto, as they are bodies that are constantly floating in the sea of dialectics between the public and the private without being able to reach the coast of either side. This is because the public domain is only for lawful landed citizens to enjoy before midnight, while the private domain is only reserved for rent payers. But this life buoy is also precarious, as it is without legitimacy, as they must not be seen by Mei-Lin, the pseudo-host, by either sneaking out or hiding under the bed, and they will lose the access once the apartment is sold. This has also rendered their affections for each other precarious. While Mei-Lin's desire for Jun is not fulfilled, Kang's homosexual desire for Jun is not even revealed to him. The realtor's key have brought the three urban dwellers together, but without offering them an end, a jouissance, as the film ends with a 5-minute-long static shot with Mei-Lin's crying in a public park, which I would interpret as the Lacanian object petit a, the fantasy for petty bourgeois life and for the stability of family life never being fulfilled. This is contradictory to the title of the film, Vive l'amour. Long live love. But there is no love in Vive l'amour. The only thing that is long living is the capital, Vive le capital, which is inherited by the next generation and continues after death, where even ossuary storage place is private and profitable. That's all for my presentation. Thank you.